Hello, today we're going to be working on the Honda CRM250 AR. So before we strip it all down, we're going to just give it a run up and check over things that definitely need doing and what is okay to leave, and then we'll decide from there where we're going to go with this project. But for now, we're just going to fire it up. So it's not been ran for a while, so it's taking a bit, but it will go. So it's got manual fuel tap. And a manual choke. There we go, that's the first signs of life. Well, it runs. Yeah, choke will be down, push down like that, will be on. It might even be like an automatic choke that when it warms up it pulls itself off. So whilst we were moving the bike around, we found that the front brake was binding a bit. So we're just going to take the caliper off and just check the state of the pads and the pistons. So we've removed these two caliper bolts and pulled the caliper off the disc, which was quite difficult to do, which shows how stiff and seized it is. And if you look at the state of the pads and the pistons in there, you can see the state of those. So what we're going to do is remove this caliper from the bike and give it a good overhaul. So we'll get it in the ultrasonic bath and we'll take the pads out, give everything a good clean up, and we may need to replace the pistons and seals in this. So this aftermarket dash has a speed pickup and a magnet on the disc. So we're going to snip some tie wraps off there and there, release the brake line bolts so we can pull the brake line up a bit once we disconnect the banjo bolt, and we'll drain the brake fluid into this jug whilst we take the caliper away. So that's the Trail Tech Speedo sensor there. So we just need to remove this screw to be able to pull that away so we can get the caliper off. Because it does feel like it's just going to round. Right, we've got a different bit and an extension so I can get more pressure on, and I think we are getting that out. There we go. Oh, the head just snapped off. But it's off. We need to drill that out and tap that. I would say that that has been drilled and tapped to fit that, but yeah, we'll sort that. We're just putting the pads apart so we can get it back on the disc, and then it'll be easier for us to get the banjo bolt off for the brake line. So we've put the caliper back on with just finger tight bolts. That will give us much more purchase to get that banjo bolt off and get the brake fluid drained out of the red brake line. So that's the brake caliper off now completely. So now we can get that stripped down and all cleaned up, get the pistons looked at, and then change the pads as well. So we're just going to remove the master cylinder cap, which will allow the oil to drain out easier into the jug below. We'll be able to clean all this up. Yeah, the top looks dirty, but inside there's pretty clean, so that's not too bad. We'll just leave that. Just means that the gravity's helping. Saying that, the fucking brake line's going all the way up there, isn't it? So gravity's doing fuck all. Never mind. On a normal bike, where the brake line just comes out of there and goes down, it would, but because it's going up the way first, but that's fine as it is. So with the front brake caliper off, we thought we would turn our attention to the back brake. Now looking at the back brake physically, it looks pretty good nick, and the pads look like there's plenty of wear on them. But the reason the pads probably haven't worn out is because the back brake does very, very little. You need to push the pedal down quite a lot. And even with the pedal all the way down there like that, and there's a lot of slack in that pedal, it doesn't really do much braking. So we'll strip this back brake off as well, and we'll take that caliper with us, and we'll also take off this cover here and get to the master cylinder just to check if there's any brake fluid in there. So with the plate off, that reveals the brake master cylinder for the rear, which two of those bolts is what held them on through that frame, and the other one just held the plate on place as well. So the brake fluid reservoir for the rear master cylinder is up behind this panel with a little inspection window there. So we're going to take this panel off to be able to get access to it. So with the panel removed, we can see the reservoir, and to me that looks empty. So we're just going to check that, put some fluid in it, and then we'll bleed the back brake and see if that makes any difference. So as you can see, there is no fluid in that at all. So just to make sure everything works, we'll just put some fluid in that, bleed it through, and then just see that the system actually works before we do anything else. Yep, so that's bubbling away now as it's filling up the system. So that's displacing the air out of all the lines. So we'll repeat this process a few times until that's stopped bubbling and stopped going down. Then we will mount the master cylinder back so we can get some purchase on the lever, and then we'll open the bleed nipple here and let the air come out of there and get some fluid through the system. So the intention today wasn't to actually bleed the brakes, but one thing's led to another, so we're going to just bleed these through. But I don't have the brake bleeding kit with me, but I suspect there'll be a lot of air in here. So we'll just pump the air through until we get a bit of fluid coming out. So I think we might have found why there is no fluid in the system. So we've topped the fluid up and we've been pumping the brake and went to bleed the back end. But I was just looking at how to adjust this and come across this seal. So I think that's why we had no brake fluid in the back. This master cylinder is going to need to come off and get overhauled. So to remove the master cylinder, we're going to remove the pin that goes through the bottom, take the split pin out the back, and then disconnect the lines, and then disconnect the reservoir, and then just take this master cylinder off and either get that refurbished or just replace the whole thing. So I've removed the split pin from the back of this pin, so this should now come out like that, which then means that this is no longer connected to the brake pedal, and then we just need to disconnect it at the top, and then we'll have a look at the clip on the back of the brake reservoir hose, and that then should allow us to take the master cylinder off completely. Just put these bolts back in to secure the master cylinder just whilst we remove the banjo bolt there for the brake hose. There shouldn't be much brake fluid that comes out of that because of the way that it tucks up along the swing arm. So all the fluid should still be in that line, but that's it now disconnected from the master cylinder. So we can release these two bolts again, and then we'll just disconnect the reservoir hose. Right, so now the master cylinder's off other than the hose here. So if we take this hose off, we're going to get all that fluid running out that we put in earlier. So you ready with that jug? Oops, tuck it down there. So that's the master cylinder off now, so we can either replace this or repair it, whichever is going to be the most cost effective. So I think the next task is going to be to get this and the front brake caliper on the bench and cleaned up, and we'll go from there.